I always recommend, and I always will, the best way I would start is I would drop in on a community, unannounced.
Sure. This is Just Call Claudia, a podcast for right-sizing your life and demystifying your relocation. Today, I'm very excited to have Fiona Forde, who is the head of sales, and I'm going to add marketing on this as well, even though it doesn't say that in your signature, of Trulee Evanston. Trulee Evanston is without a doubt the chicest, newest senior community in Evanston, and I want to hear from Fiona this morning about how one approaches selecting a senior community, how families are to anticipate with their loved one, how to shop for a senior community, what you can imagine encountering when you make an appointment to meet Fiona or one of her staff at Trulee, and what that walkthrough looks like. She is here to really demystify the process of selecting a senior community and sharing why Trulee is a terrific choice in the future for you or a loved one. And more importantly, hear more about Fiona and how she has made a truly remarkable brand new community feel like home to so many. Thanks, Fiona, for being here.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I'm so honored that you asked me, and thank you.
And no, it's so exciting.
I mean, you and I go way back
Right.
on properties that
Right.
you've been our preferred provider.
Yes, it's been a pleasure and a real privilege to be selected so many times as a preferred provider, which means the individual moving into the senior community doesn't have to make any more phone calls because they know they're reaching the best of the best, which I can proudly say it's true.
Yeah.
Anyway, I want to hear more about you and those other jobs when I wasn't with you.
So I entered the senior living market in 2014 and have really only been with 4 buildings, opening buildings, building sales teams, and taking these buildings to occupancy. And we met over a decade ago where you, or CMFTO, who is the best in the business, had contracts with these buildings, and we would put families in contact with you, and you would just take over and move people out and in just seamlessly, and we filled buildings year after year after year.
Right.
So I came into it, I needed a job, kind of just fell into it, and but
Sometimes we all just need a job.
Yeah.
And look what's happened. Look at this amazing position you have, and you really, you lead the team. You have been the face of Trulee for 5 years. But remember, it was October 26th, 5 years ago, when you called me, because that is my birthday.
Oh, I'm going to have to remember that. That's a great coinky dink.
And we were all ready to do our 2 first move-ins, and you called and said there's COVID. And we had to lock those plans. I remember getting on the phone with my people saying, okay, this was like 8 at night. We had to cancel movers. I got to change my team. It was this. And then that pregnant pause of when, because we hadn't moved anybody in yet. And it's like we were just itching to get it going for you, because the more people that move in, the more people are buzzing about it, the more successful the building was. And we were just, it was almost 2.5 weeks. I was
November 2021, and yes, COVID changed
4 years
changed
ago,
the world, and it was just we had 14 people lined up ready to move, and you had 14 people lined up ready to move, and it was devastating for families. I mean, these are people making the decision and all the preparation that goes into making that move, and then the fear with COVID, because these are elderly people, and it was just
absolutely.
So it was an awful time for everyone, but in healthcare in particular. I mean,
because there were individuals that needed to move in. When would you say to any couple or any senior couple when they say, we're not ready, what would you say in response to that?
Well, the "we're not ready" statement is, what does ready look like?
Right.
Right? We don't want to wait for something to happen. And inevitably, as we age, chances are pretty good something's going to happen. So you want to start doing your research early, involve your parent or your spouse or your loved one as early on as you can, and making decisions. At least whether you like Trulee or wherever it is, you know where you don't want to be, but understand, the senior space and what it offers, because in our particular building, folks can move in independently where they're not really requiring any type of support. And then folks are moving in who need a lot of support. And what does that mean? So we have a 24-hour nursing team that builds a care plan, understands the individual's needs, and provides that. And then folks who are coming in independently, if and when they should ever need any type of support, they are in a place where we can simply increase services and provide the care. And the beauty of Trulee versus really any other property in the Chicagoland area is we have what we call a floating license. So what that means is that should you come to need care, you've moved in independently, you're still traveling, maybe you're working a little bit, something happens. And oftentimes these folks who are moving in independently may have a progressive disease and sort of know, have you kind of see down the lane with that, and that's why they're moving in. But when that happens, they're not having to make a physical move from the apartment that they've chosen and that they've set up. We simply increase services and costs, and they stay in their apartment. So they age in place for life, and that's such an important feature for families to know and understand, because it's hard enough to move.
It is.
In the best of times.
Absolutely. The senior move is so often, and it's almost a crass, harsh, it is most likely the last move our loved ones are going to make. Therefore, I always say, too, when I go for those interviews and I'm doing those measures, it's the most important move they're going to make, because it needs to be seamless. You need to feel, the loved one, the senior needs to feel empowered, excited. So I've got so many questions rushing around my brain, but there's also a uniqueness to Trulee, because you are rental.
Yes.
So talk about that versus, we don't have to name other senior community names, but it is a different, unique business model.
It is. And so what that simply means is it is a rental. It's a 1-year lease. And so you're moving in on a 1-year lease with a 30-day, call it out clause. So if for whatever reason this isn't working, they've decided to move someplace else, or they pass away, the lease ends within that 30-day period, and you move on. We're not holding them to a contract versus those buy-ins where you are investing a minimum of $500,000 into their care for life. And you don't necessarily have a lot of control over what that is. So these are campuses that have independent living, assisted living, memory care, skilled nursing, and that's being driven by teams that are saying, you've declined and now assisted living is appropriate, and you're making a move. Or if you become ill and you need skilled nursing, which is basically an acute hospital setting environment, and you need to make a move there. That's another. Those are just traumatic to have to happen, and you don't necessarily know that skilled nursing provider is great, is so good. You don't have a choice. A lot of choices are taken away from you. So and you're in it. You're not getting that back.
Right, you're in it. This offers a family flexibility. So when I received the phone call yesterday from the gentleman whose parents are at Harbor Point in Chicago.
I'm so happy he called. I know exactly who you're talking about.
Okay. And so from Harbor Point, and I didn't ask him this question, so we have moved a lot of people from downtown Chicago. And we know that you are 13 miles from Chicago, kind of point to point. And normally people in Chicago stay in Chicago, but that's not the case. People have flocked to Trulee from downtown Chicago. Do you often see families in communion with placing their parents and making this decision, helping their parents? Or is there often that insecurity about mom's not ready or dad's not ready. How does that float? Because I'm never in the room for that. I'm always in the room with mom and dad are moving. You know what I'm saying?
The larger the family, the more the conflict and internal decisions. Generally, there's a person leading it, but with any sibling, I don't know if you have brothers or sisters, but I have sisters, and it's a process on everybody trying to get on the same page with things. But generally, it's driven by someone.
And the business model, fresh, new. A couple outstanding features of Trulee are your technology. I remember for the open house, or maybe even before then, we're walking through. Share with us what that technology aspect is that is so attractive to many.
So the biggest one is our emergency response system called Care Predict, and it's built into our building, and essentially it gives families great peace of mind over their loved ones because it lets us know. Not only where they are within the building, it has a voice to voice. So it's literally got a button. It's like an Apple Watch, and you press the button, and you can be voice to voice with your nurse or caregiver, saying whatever it is. I don't feel well, or whatever that is.
And all these years I didn't realize. I mean, maybe I forgot, but wow.
And
that's
that enables staff to get to you.
So no pull cords.
Right, no pull cords.
Or lavs around your neck.
No, it's excellent technology, and it also, that's the greatest feature and a really big selling point with families, but it also tracks things like sleeping, someone's gait, how often, if there's a change in how they're moving, toileting, how often they're in and out, maybe using the toileting, so that it can kind of ping nursing about maybe we want to look, maybe there's a UTI, maybe there's something.
Fascinating.
If they're eating, how much they're in the dining room. Falls. It detects falls.
I was to say the fall thing.
Right.
How many times we've moved individuals, everything is going along just great, and this gets back to when is it the right time? And I can answer my own question, which is, and when I do my presentations and things, I always say, the question always comes up many times. Now, if you're in a room and you're looking at a senior community and I'm doing a program or I'm meeting you and we're having just a conversation, if you're thinking about it, this is the time to do your research, right? Understand where you would like to be and get on the list, right? Because and this is something I'm starting to talk to even some of my older friends about, just get on the list. Doesn't cost that much. You don't have to be ready right away, but because if one of the partners, and often it's the partner, there's not usually, people are not aging at the same rate, and things happen on both sides of the coin there. And when it happens, it's too late, because in this affluent area, you're not going to just waltz into a senior community. Like a hotel room, like my reservation's at 5 o'clock today. That's not happening because a desired unit will definitely not be available. So walk us through the process of, I'm bringing my loved one, and do I call Trulee, make an appointment? Share with the listeners today how they approach this with a loved one.
So typically what's happening is someone's representing, whether it's a son or a daughter or it's a couple and it's an individual, and they decide to start looking. They'll call, set up a tour, and someone on the team will bring them in, do a little discovery as to like what if there are any health concerns. What are they, what's their timeline, that kind of thing, and get a good understanding, and then really just feature us, which is just a robust activities and social program, show some apartments, take a look around, maybe invite them for lunch or for dinner or to a happy hour to sort of really get a visual as to what it's like to see the community and what it is, and it's really important. But I always recommend, and I always will, the best way I would start is I would drop in on a community, unannounced.
Sure.
I think
Sure.
that gives you the most organic, real vibe. Because when we
Experience.
know you're coming, you know,
Right.
a good salesperson is going to do their due diligence and
Totally.
maybe get a lot of information ahead of time. Maybe
Sure.
you love dogs. Maybe I've got a puppy in the lobby. I mean, there's all that stuff that
Right.
happens.
That can happen, yeah.
Right, and does. And so I always recommend, if not the first time, a second time or a third time, or as you're starting to make this decision, absolutely drop in on a place. Hey, can I take a look around? Is somebody available to see me? And really pay attention to what
love
you're
this.
seeing. Yeah.
I think everyone, you know, because I'm very scheduled, and I would be, what time slot could I come? And I'm not going to get the same, picture. Or I will get the same picture because you're so confident that your team and your property is ready all the time. And that speaks to not just business hours, 10 to 5 or 6, weekends, that speaks to 2:30 on a Friday when we don't usually even do moves because it's an active time and more families are visiting. I think that's phenomenal advice. What other sources? Okay, we want to talk about our friends in the case
management, referral sources, and that type of thing.
sources,
Yeah.
and case management. What does that mean to hire a case manager? What level of service do they provide in anticipation of the senior move? So why don't you share that information?
So there's many, and that's an increasing. I think in the last 6 months, personal acquaintances of mine who've been in the industry have stepped out and are running their own consulting type companies.
I see.
For
Okay.
exactly that reason, because they know the market and they're most of them are pretty knowledgeable, and so it depends. I think you have to really, and then there's a national paid referral agency.
Things change, and the industry is fast growing, certainly, and understanding who you are, because how in the world could you ever recommend any community if you didn't really know the features of it?
Right.
And that's what's so important about you sharing your unique features. Okay, so I know that you collaborate a little bit with Northwestern University. What does that mean? What's that look like?
So one of the important pillars with Trulee, we're very invested in the community, and we really have a lot of local partnerships. And so Northwestern is one of them. And for example, we have students that are studying neuroscience that'll come in 2-3 times a week. They'll spend time in our memory care with our memory care residents, and they'll do brain active type activities. They spend time with them. They understand them. It's wonderful.
That's so cool.
Right. School of Business, School of Music comes in and they do some entertaining for us.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that because I'm never around when I don't have access to that. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Because it's right there.
Right. It's right there. Right.
And what other organizations within Evanston?
So Homer's Ice Cream that's on our menu.
Okay, cute.
Collective O Coffee.
I love it.
Yeah.
Coffee. So very local.
Very local.
Making
very local.
sure they're part of the Evanston, because Evanston is on the North Shore. It is not considered, as people say, oh, that's not the North Shore.
Yeah.
Evanston's always had its own identity.
It's a gateway to the North Shore.
Absolutely, and all much more academic. I hope no one takes this negatively, but it's always been the academic, more nerdy community. It just is, and it speaks to, it's intellectual. Not that people other places on the North Shore aren't intellectual. That's not what I'm saying. But it's known for that. That's really cool too.
Yeah,
I love that.
It is, and over 30% of our employees live in Evanston. So
That's quality of work, right? If you're nearby and you can come. Oh, I remember that wonderful receptionist you had when you first opened that was so lovely. She became an adjunct to your office when things were crazy. And then eventually we moved her father in.
Yeah, she just retired. She's such a loss. She just retired. She was amazing.
That spirit.
Yeah.
Well, that's that's the longevity that you offer someone because they're close to work, high quality, phenomenal collaborative environment. You all sit in your office very close to each other. You all work at a team. It's kind of like a command center almost, right?
Yeah, it's very cozy.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
2 different clients that we had moved 5 times. And one is one of your residents. We moved them from Highland Park to one of the condos on the lake in Wilmette. They said, this is our last move. And then about 3 years later, I get this phone call. Claudia, we're moving to Trulee. I said, I'll be right over. We did her floor plan. We prepped that property at 1420 Sheridan Road. We prepared that for market. That sold. We moved them into the largest unit you had at the time. And then as needs changed, and this what was so cool, because there was truly need changed, and so there was some memory care needed, we moved her husband into memory care, and then she calls me and she's like, nope, Claudia, I want a smaller unit, and Fiona has it for me. Then we moved her into a smaller unit. And then after her husband passed away, I remember we went back in and maybe rehung photos or something, because then we were combining the units. But she was my Cinco. It was really fun to have that relationship over all the years, from way independent, fancy house in Highland Park, and just continue. By the time I think we made the last move for her, which we could go in today and find her underwear and her blankets for sure very quickly. It's so gratifying to be able to continue, to help those wonderful residents. And then today, of course, we're finishing a Trulee move for our dear client from the Sandburg Village area. And I've already had several text messages that things couldn't be found. And then 9:30 or 10 at night, I said, your team will be there tomorrow morning at 9. And then at 5 this morning, bling, I found it. Well, because she's in a new environment. So my curiosity, because we're not, we move, we oversee, we edit, we make sure everything is going to fit. We're putting it all away today. We're going to hang some pictures for her. We're also in the city today finishing up preparing her property in the city for market. So that's going to be ready to go as soon as the painters come in. But my question to you is, so I show up at Trulee, like this wonderful woman has. Who's doing a little extra hand-holding over the course of the next couple days? Because we're there and we know everything there is to know about Trulee, but we're not going to be there in a continuing fashion. How do we support our seniors when they've made this very pivotal move?
So we've really done our homework on our residents moving in well before they've moved in. So in this particular last move-in that we happen to know she's very independent. She enjoys golf. She likes to read, and I know her quite well because I worked with her. And so what that looks like is it's a meeting a couple days ahead of time. Everybody knows and expects the move-in, what time she's coming, and it's introductions, it's soft touches. In her particular case, she'll appreciate knocks on the door and introductions and whatnot. And
she's very social.
Very.
She knew the doorman in the building. The doorman was begging. When he said to me on Monday when I stopped to say hello and check on everything, he said, "Oh, you're not going to move her, are you?" And then I gave him one of my CMFTO tote bags because I knew he was really upset. Aww. So you're gaining a wonderful resident. She's very loved from where she came. Yeah.
Very likable. Yes. And we set up a dinner. One of our residents who also enjoys golf, who happens to live on a floor above her.
Excellent.
We asked her to give her a little knock on the door. She may or may have not wanted to have dinner with her, but just somebody to say, "Hey, would you like to have dinner?" That type of thing. And I think that we'll be engaging with her daily with questions. Make sure she knows where to find a presentation, make sure she knows where to find the little fitness center that we have, where the beauty salon is, and answer all those questions. So we make ourselves very available.
Good.
For somebody,
I assumed.
Yeah. But not everybody wants that. So then maybe you have somebody coming in, heels in the ground, not happy to be there, don't even look at me. I mean, that happens too. And so we take the family's cue on that. It takes a little time. We eventually get smooth sailing. I have to say, in the almost 5 years that we have been open, we haven't had anybody move out because they've been unhappy. We haven't had anybody because
I would know that. I would be moving them out too. Because they always call me when a loved one has to make an out-of-state move or something like that. They call me. No, it wasn't Trulee. It was because they need to be closer to their sister in North Carolina or whatever the situation is.
And our senior folks, like sometimes our children when they're younger, they make liars out of us. They make liars out of their families. Mom's not going to do this and dad's not going to do that, and they're the most. They once they get their bearings and they become quite out and about and social and vocal, and we have a resident council that gets together and they come up with different creative clubs and places they want to go and things they want to do, and it's all driven by the residents. So,
and do you have access to a limo? I know you said you were looking for a new driver. What's that SMSA that you can take advantage of having? A driver.
We have a driver who keeps his own calendar, and he works with the residents or through residents, caregivers, and whatnot, and on a schedule in terms of taking loved ones to their appointments or shopping or whatever it is that they want to do.
That's lovely.
Yeah.
Oh, that's very nice.
Yeah.
And how about some of your residents going downtown to opera or symphony, something like that? The driver would supply that as well?
Yes. Or the bus. We have a bus, if depending on how large the outing's going to be.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Quite busy. Yeah, it's he's at Ravinia a lot in the summer. We do botanical gardens. They're out and around and
I might want to go along sometime.
Yeah.
I think, because we know so many of your residents. And it's always what we see when we are going for those meetings, and then really in the nitty gritty, packing someone up and, getting into the kitchen. And that's when we just say to the family members, well, you can go now because we're good. And the stories that we have heard from the incoming individual into your community, they are always so amazing. But I just am always haunted. I don't think we take, as a community, not an Evanston community, as a world community or a United States community, really spending enough time with our seniors and the respect and the ageist mentality. And I literally drive down the road or look at a sidewalk when I'm walking, and I was just around the Northwestern campus downtown for checkup the other day, and I'm looking at this sidewalk. And then I look up, and here's a woman on her walker, and there's a cab, kind of down the block. And I looked at her, I said, do you need that cab? Because if you don't, I'm taking it. Anyway, she said, well, he's not paying attention to me. So I knocked on the window, and he started screaming at me. She wasn't motioning. And I'm like, she's on a walker. It's this level of sensitivity to seniors. Yeah. And I don't know if I'm going to have to change my career and talk about it or what, but it's something that really, really bothers me because people talk over their parents. They call them, she or her in the third person. I'm like, that happens to be your mom. That happens to be your loved one.
Yeah.
And I know I'm facing that eventually, God willing. It's really not attractive.
No, and I think we're more sensitive to it because we're kind of getting to these places where we're kind of have maybe a few more years behind us than and I think that we see things and perceive things differently, but I absolutely agree, and it hurts your heart. It really does. And it's difficult to watch. And so when you can see a community of people, of seniors, and people working in that community for all the right reasons, I mean, great hearts, and just creating these environments, it's special.
It is special. Well, you feel it when you walk in Trulee's door.
It's been a very rewarding and fulfilling career, watching people's lives change and really having people trust us in the process of a move, and to see it move forward successfully and people living their best lives as they age.
No, absolutely. It has been such a pleasure working with you all these years.
It was you all the way every time, and we sold it. White glove relocation specialists. From the you walk in, you set things up from the spoons in the drawer to the pictures on the wall. I mean, perfection and boxing and moving, and your teams are amazing. And so we would never have worked with considered anybody else. So and Anna has that level of expectation at every level.
And you
in
do
the
too.
Buildings. Yeah,
and your team does.
Yeah,
and
that's the magic. That's how it all.
That's how it all comes
works.
together.
Yeah.
It is teamwork. It's a lot of communication, and I love the fact that it's a lot of love and a lot of heart, because we have to lead from that, right?
Yeah. You can teach the job. You can teach the job.
Yeah, you can pack and move anybody. That's not. I always say, someone says, "Oh, I know someone that does what you do," and I always say, "Oh, really? Really? Got it. Good to know. That's what Mel Robbins would say. Good to know. Thank you, Fiona.
my
We're going to go
pleasure.
down in history.
My
Thank you
pleasure.
for being one of my first guests.
My pleasure. Happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for being in my life and allowing us to be part of your team. Thanks for listening. You can contact Fiona at FFORDE at soleraseniorliving.com. And don't forget to check out Trulee at truleeevanston.com. You can follow me on Instagram at CMFTO or check out our website, cmfto.com, to learn more about my business.